Good evening. I have three terrifying tales that you should never read before bed. The first is from Scottish Folk and Fairy Tales from Burns to Buchan, a Penguin classic, uh, selected and edited by Gordon Jarvie. And it's the first little tale, and it's The Milk White Dew by Elizabeth Grierson. Well, let's explore it a little. There was once a man who got his living by working in the fields. He had one little son called Curlylocks and one little daughter called Golden Tresses. But his wife was dead, and as he had to be out all day, the children were often left alone. So, as he was afraid that some evil might befall them when there was no one to look after them, he, in an ill day, married again. I say, in an ill day, for his second wife was a most deceitful woman who really hated children, although she pretended before her marriage to love them. This good man, he comes back with a hare, a rabbit, and gives it to his wife, who's a good cook, to make a meal out of. So she makes a soup out of the hare, but she tastes it and continues to taste it, and then realizes that she's eaten most of it. Now, what do you think the wicked woman did? Well, she went outside and asked Curlylocks to come in from playing to wash his face, and she hits him on his head with a hammer and stuns him and throws him into the soup and makes a soup out of him. So his father comes back, and he's eating the soup, and he's sitting in silence, and he lifted up a foot in a spoon. "This is Curlylock's foot," he cried in horror. "There's been ill work here." "Hoots havers," answered his wife, laughing, pretending to be very much amused. "What should Curlylock's foot be doing in the soup? 'Tis the hare's forefoot, which is very like that of a baron." But presently the good man took something else up in his spoon. "This is Curlylock's hand," he said shrilly. "I ken it by the crook in his little finger." "The man's demented," retorted his wife, "not to ken the hind foot of a hare when he sees it." So he doesn't know what's happening. He finishes his soup and leaves to go back to work. Now, little Golden Tresses realizes there is something strange afoot here. So she collects all the bones that are left on the plates in her apron, and she goes out and buries them near a white rose tree that grew near the cottage door. And the poor bones, which were buried with such care, grew and grew to a milk white dew that took its wings, and away it flew. Well, you will have to read the rest. The Milk White Dew. Terrifying tale. Now, we move on to Japanese ghost stories by Lafcadio Hearn. The first one is The Corpse Rider. The body was cold as ice, the heart had long ceased to beat, yet there were no signs of death. Nobody even spoke of burying the woman. She had died of grief and anger at having been divorced. It would have been useless to bury her, because the last undying wish of a dying person for vengeance can burst asunder any tomb and lift the heaviest graveyard stone. People who lived near the house in which she was lying fled from their homes. They knew that she was only waiting for the return of the man who had divorced her. At the time of her death, he was on a journey. When he came back and was told what had happened, terror seized him. So he sought advice. He went to an Inyoshi and begged for succor. And he was told that, he said, the Inyoshi said he will help him, but he must do something. He said, they go back to the house, and she's laying on her face, and the Inyoshi says, and now you must get astride upon her, said the Inyoshi, and sit firmly on her back as if you were riding a horse. Come, you must do it. The man shivered, so that the Inyoshi had to support him. Shivered horribly, but he obeyed. Now take her hair in your hands, commanded the Inyoshi. Half in the right hand and half in the left. So. You must grip it like a bridle. Twist your hands in it. Both hands. Tightly. That is the way. Listen to me. You must stay like that till morning. You will have reason to be afraid in the night. Plenty of reason. But whatever may happen, never let go of her hair. If you let go, even for 1 second, she will tear you to goblets. Then hour after hour the man sat upon the corse in black fear. Now she gets up. Well, you will have to read it, but never at bedtime for the story. The next one is Of a Promise Broken. I am not afraid to die, said the dying wife. There is only one thing that troubles me now. I wish that I could know who will take my place in the house. My dear one, answered the soaring husband, nobody shall ever take your place in my home. I will never, never marry again. At the time that he said this, he was speaking out of his heart, for he loved the woman whom he was about to lose. And she makes him promise that he will never take anybody, and that she will be buried in the garden under the plum tree, and have a little bell that is that with a rope in her tomb in the grave, a little priest bell, and then a huge monument was built on top. All this was done after she died. And it says she was buried in the garden under the shade of the trees that she loved, and a small bell was buried with her. Above the grave was erected a handsome monument decorated with the family crest and bearing the Kimyon, great elder sister, luminous shadow of the plum flower chamber, dwelling in the mansion of the great sea of compassion. As it says, the husband was sincere with his promise, but his family, after a year, talked him into marrying again. So he marries a beautiful, loving 17-year-old girl. Now, on the 7th day of their marriage, he is ordered to go to the castle overnight, and she must stay alone. She felt very, very afraid of this, but she stays alone. And his first wife rises from the grave and comes to her bedroom and says, not in this house shall you stay. Here I am mistress still. You shall go, and you shall tell to no one the reason of your going. If you tell him, I will tear you into pieces. So in the next morning, when her husband comes back, she says she wants to leave. She wants a divorce. And he doesn't know. He's very distraught. And but she finally tells him what has happened. And he doesn't believe it. He thinks there's something wrong, but he has to leave again. So he sets up two old faithful retainers, two men-at-arms, to be in the bedroom with her behind a screen all night. Now he leaves, and she is left there. She falls asleep, but the apparition starts, and she can't wake the two retainers. They are senseless. They don't see anything or hear anything. And he comes back in the morning. Well, again, something you will have to read to find out. Nighty night. Happy dreams, everyone.